Politics, one of the most controversial topics of all time, and a very popular topic for Gen Z. It seeps its way into everything, even some of our media. But have you ever wondered where your favorite DC heroes and villains would land on the political compass? Well, I did. And after some thinking and some research, I've decided to place a handful of DC characters on a compass. Now, I want you to bear in mind that this is all based off my opinion. So if you disagree, just let me know down below where you would personally place these characters. Now, obviously, I can't cover all DC characters because that would take me so long and I'd be here for hours. But honestly, I just picked a handful of heroes and villains. And since these characters have hundreds of iterations and interpretations, I would be basing my opinion on their general context based on the wikis made for them. But I will primarily be making my decisions based on their main and current universe depictions. And again, just a reminder, do not take this video seriously, because I know there's always one guy or girl or they or them that takes it too far. This is just for entertainment purposes. Anyways, aside from that, let's begin. So first, I want to start with everyone's favorite big blue boy scout, Superman, aka Kal-El, aka Clark Kent. I believe that Superman would be placed in the leftist libertarian category. Now, why leftist? Well, that's because his son is an open bisexual and he is shown to be very much accepting of that. And on top of that, he has also been shown to be pro-immigration since, he himself is a galactic immigrant. I believe his libertarianism is also reflected in his morals and his refusal to kill, not just because he thinks it's wrong, but also because he gives the villains the option to choose to be better. Libertarians in general highly value personal freedom, which he does too, and thus, from the media I've consumed, I believe that him being a leftist libertarian would be most appropriate. On top of that, he's also a reporter, so they genuinely tend to be libertarian. Next, we have Batman. Honestly, if Batman was real, he would be the first ethical billionaire, given that he fights against corrupt politicians to clean up Gotham and pushes many welfare programs from his parents' foundation, the Thomas and Martha Wayne Foundation. But he is also a capitalist, which makes him libertarian. Now, another thing that I believe makes him libertarian is the fact that he is a vigilante. He takes the law into his own hands as he believes that the system is fundamentally broken and needs remodeling. And through his efforts, he tries to remodel them. And also, again, capitalists tend to be libertarian. There's also the fact that he is anti-gun, which could mean he could be pro-gun control. Circling back to the point of him being a billionaire though, since he is also a capitalist, I would understand him wanting to lower taxes. After all, the Wayne Enterprise is a privately held company. And him being anti-gun doesn't necessarily mean he is against the ability to bear arms. As you know, he himself, as Batman, has multiple unregistered military-grade weapons which he uses on a daily basis. Based off everything I've said, I believe that Batman would be center left wing, and obviously libertarian. After this, we have Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman is a little trickier than her other Trinity members because she's super confusing. But to help me discern her general political compass, I will be using this blog to help, which I encourage you to check out yourself. Similar to both Batman and Superman, I believe Wonder Woman would be libertarian, but I believe she would be center-right. Now, my reason for this is as follows. Wonder Woman was raised in a militaristic warrior society as a princess who worships Olympians' gods. That sounds quite conservative to me, because conservatives generally believe in orders and classes, which I believe she does since she's, a princess and comes from a monarchy. And they generally believe in custom and convention. On top of that, conservatives generally are pro-military, which she obviously is, given her background as an Amazonian. Now to address the glaring issue that you've probably mentioned. But Agni, isn't Wonder Woman LGBT? Yes, she is, but conservatism doesn't necessarily mean anti-LGBT. Conservatism simply wants to uphold tradition. With the case of Wonder Woman, her tradition simply includes LGBT aspects and practices. Since her character is based on Greek culture, which makes sense as the Greek were known to be more sexually fluid than their other European counterparts, such as the Catholics from Britain. Another argument for her being more right-wing is that I believe she would be pro-capital punishment. And the reason for this is based on her no-kill rule. Well, or lack thereof. Unlike the other Trinity members, Wonder Woman does not have a no-kill rule. She is very much willing to take a life if she deemed it necessary. Now, the reason I say this is because conservatives generally are pro-capital punishment, as I found in this article from 2015. Now, I believe that Wonder Woman would be center-right because she is seemingly quite liberal in comparison to her other Amazonian counterparts. An obvious example is her willingness to engage in man's world away from Themyscira, where most Amazonians would not. And personally, I just can't see Wonder Woman being completely against welfare programs or pro-labor programs. Next is Darkseid, authoritarian right-wing. That's it. Okay, obviously I need to give you a reason, but I mean, I feel this is quite obvious. And I can summarize Darkseid's political opinion in one quote. I look on existence and I see chaos. I arbor chaos. I would have order. Ordering the chaos requires a single mind, a single will, mine. Darkseid is authoritarian because he, as the head of his government, values order and has repeatedly shown his need for obedience from others, be it willingly or unwillingly. I believe he is also right-wing due to his dislike for change. Darkseid wants everything done his way, by his rule, under his thumb. I would say he is very much on the extreme end of the spectrum for these values. Therefore, authoritarian right-wing seems the most fitting. After this, we have Amanda Waller. I mean, she has a lot of history in politics, obviously, but her political alignment is a bit hard to discern, so I honestly couldn't tell whether she'd be left-wing or right-wing. What I do know, however, is that I would class her as authoritarian. Not as authoritarian as Darkseid, but she would definitely be one. And this is highlighted in her willingness to protect the world by crossing any moral length. A great example of this is Absolute Power, which saw her go against both heroes and villains from DC to erase all superpowered beings regardless of the potential good they bring. She, using her position of power, made decisions for the entire world regardless of consent or agreement. And this ain't the first or the last time she'll ever do this, by the way. It's gonna happen again. It's a common theme with her character. So with her, I would put her as a center authoritarian. Maybe slightly leaning to the right, I'd say, because she seems pro-capital punishment, you know, given what she does with the Suicide Squad. You know, forcing them to do good or just executing them with bombs in their heads. After her, we have Lex Luthor. Now with Lex, I understand he did run for his own political party called the Tomorrow Party, which was a, third party. And he ended up becoming president. But for the sake of the video, let's just say that that doesn't exist. I would place Luthor as a liberal centrist, maybe slightly leaning towards conservative. Now, Lex Luthor is a man who is super pragmatic. He does not care for religion, tradition, or sexuality. But he is also very pro-military, pro-capitalist, and would love to lower taxes, since, he is a billionaire and extremely egotistical. Also, fun fact, Lex Luthor is richer than Bruce Wayne. Anyways, Lex wants more power and he wants money. So he would obviously be libertarian given he is super capitalist. So with my consensus, it only makes sense that Lex would be a liberal centrist, if not slightly leaning towards the conservative side. Finally, I would like to add Guy Gardner. Now this is interesting because Guy has previously said some pretty conservative things. However, it was in the 80s, and if we were to hold all characters by what they said in the 80s, then Superman would not look good. An example of this with Guy is when he was pretty transphobic when talking to Dr. Fate. But again, this was kind of the norm back then, so I wouldn't hold it to him. Now, I do understand that in James Gunn's recent run, we see Guy kind of take a political stance and fighting against not Israel, but I'm honestly trying to base it off their main universe counterparts. That being said, however, with Guy, there was barely anything I could find with him except this one wiki page which said he's super conservative. That being said, there wasn't a lot of sourcing behind that. There was nothing that was backing up those claims. So I'm gonna go off the forbidden source headcanon. So I would honestly put Guy Gardner as a liberal centre-right. As from the vibes he gives off, he is definitely pro-military, and he seems pro-nuclear family, as well as pro-capitalist, obviously. But he doesn't seem like an extreme one at all, just an everyday guy. Anyways, that is the end of my video. Thanks for watching. If you disagree, let me know down below. Who would you place on the political spectrum, and how would you place them? If you would like a part 2 to this video, let me know down below. I would very much be open to making one, as I had more fun with this. And to be honest, I did have to remove a few characters because I felt the video would just be too long.